Alright, today we're looking at some word problems, and these are going to be word problems that utilize two-step equations. Okay, so the basic idea with most word problems is you want to have some kind of diagram or drawing of the situation, and then probably write an equation, and then utilize that equation to your advantage. Now, the order you do those things in is kind of up to you and what you feel comfortable with. What some people like to do is they like to maybe answer some of the easier questions first and save the equation for a little bit later on. But some people like to just have the equations down right off the bat. Okay, so that's a little bit up to you on kind of how you do that. But we have a specific problem here. Apparently I like to ride or pedal, as I was corrected, in my canoe. And I'm 1,000 yards from shore, and I'm going to start paddling back at a rate of 50 yards per minute. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is we definitely want to draw a picture of this situation. That's really important that we do that. Okay, so your picture doesn't have to be great. Okay, as you guys know, I'm not a very good artist. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of draw a little picture of a boat. And I'm going to draw me in it. It's really about the extent of my picture. Then, I'll draw some water. Yep, this is water. You know it because it's blue. And then I will label shore. And then I need to throw some of my actual numbers on there. So first things first, I know that my canoe is traveling at 50 yards per minute, and I know that my canoe is a distance of 1,000 yards from shore. That's all you need in terms of a picture. You could draw it smaller, you don't even have to draw it as big as I did, whatever works, but just some kind of basic diagram would be really helpful. Okay, so I want to know, first things first, how far I've traveled after 1 and 5 minutes and how far I am for shore after 1 and 5 minutes. You could, if you know how to jump into the equation part of this right away, you can go on to the next question, pause, kind of write your equation and use it to help you figure this out. But my suggestion at this point is just pause and figure out how far I've moved in 1 minute and 5 minutes and how far I am from shore. So pause and then we'll come back and see the answer. Okay, so if I know I'm moving 50 yards per minute in 1 minute, I'm going to have moved 50 yards. In 5 minutes, I'm probably not drawing this very well to scale, but I'm going to do it anyway. I'll have moved 5 times 50, or 250. So in 1 minute, I'll have moved 50. In 5 minutes, I'll have moved 250. Now, to do the opposite of that question, all you got to realize is that the amount of distance I have left to shore is going to be 1,000, my total distance, minus whatever distance I've traveled. So in 1 minute, I'm going to be 50 yards closer, so that's 950. And then I will be another 200 yards past that, or 250 total closer to shore, or 750 yards from shore after 5 minutes. Now the hard part here is writing an equation, so that's what we get to next. We're supposed to write an equation for how far he has traveled and one for how far he is from shore. Okay? So the traveling one. We want to write an equation in terms of x, okay? And you have to kind of decide what you want to make x. I'm going to assume that x is going to be the number of minutes that I've been paddling, okay? Well, let's see. If it's going to be 50 for every minute, it was 50 after 1. Is there a pattern you see there? Well, that equation is going to be 50 times x. Think about that. 50 times 1 is 50. 50 times 5 is 250. That's what got me those distances. Now, this is where writing the distance I am from shore in terms of an equation is probably helpful if you've actually done some of these calculations before. So how did you get from this to these values? Well, you took 1,000 minus the distance I've traveled. So that's what I'm going to do for my equation. I'm going to do 1,000 minus the distance I've traveled, which is 50x. Okay, so I'm just doing 1,000 minus that original equation. That's my equation. Now that we actually have an equation, we don't necessarily really need that picture anymore. Okay, because now we can use that equation to help us figure some things out. Okay, so I'm going to erase this portion, but I'm going to leave the equations up there. So if I want to know when I'm 100 yards from shore, that means I just need to plug 100 into my from shore equation. Now I just need to solve that for x. This is a normal two-step equation like we've been solving. Subtract 1,000 from both sides. I get negative 900. Divide by negative 50. And x equals, well, let's see, 2 50s going every 100, so 900s will be 18. So it looks like 18 minutes to be within 100. If I want to figure out when I'm going to reach shore, that means my distance from shore will be 0. Or that my distance traveled will be 1,000. So I could do that too. I could either plug 1,000 into my traveled equation, that's one way to look at it, or a 0 into my from shore equation. It doesn't really matter. I'm going to solve this one because this one's easier and that makes more sense to me. But you could have easily solved the other one. Just to prove it to yourself, try solving that second one and see if you still get 20 minutes. You really should. So the hardest part, I think, with these word problems is the actual writing of an equation. Okay? Typically, I can kind of break it down for you as best I can. Typically, with most of these equations, it's going to be of the form ax plus b, where we're putting numbers of the positive or negative sort in for a and b. The b number is going to be some kind of constant or starting value. Okay, so maybe this is the amount of money you started with. In this last problem's case, it was the distance I was from shore. No matter what you were trying to figure out, you still had to start with the understanding that I was 1,000 yards from shore. This number is typically going to be a rate. It is what's going to be changed depending on what x is. So here, this was the speed that I was traveling. Okay, so because I was traveling 50 every minute, if I multiplied 50 times the number of minutes, which I called x, I could figure out what the distance I'd traveled was. But maybe this is something else. Maybe this is, it obviously could be another type of speed of a car. It could be the number of dollars you make per week or something like that. But usually the key to knowing what number that's going to be in your word problem is it's going to be the word per is going to show up. So like dollars per week, miles per hour, yards per minute. You got a good feeling that that's going to need to get multiplied by x in our equation. That's kind of a quick summary, but get some practice with these word problems, and I think you'll grow more comfortable with them.